God's authority versus the control of Satan. Number 6. More on Satan. This is a breakdown of core ideas about how drugs and alcohol can affect you spiritually. Weakened spiritual state. The central idea is that being under the influence of drugs or alcohol weakens a person's spiritual defenses. When a person's mind is colluded and inhibitions are lowered, they are seen as being more susceptible to temptation and external spiritual forces. This is sometimes described as a spiritual doorway or portal being open, allowing negative influence to enter. The spirit of addiction. Some ministries and theological views describe a spirit of addiction as a demonic entity that torments a person and compels them to engage in destructive behaviors. In this view, violence, assault, or murder committed while drunk or high are not just a result of impaired judgment, but are actions being actively encouraged or pushed by the malevolent spiritual force. The addiction itself is seen as a form of spiritual bondage. Biblical interpretation. Proponents of this view often point to biblical passages that connect substance use with a lack of self-control and other destructive behaviors. For example, Ephesians 5:18, which says, "Do not get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery," is interpreted as a warning against losing control and opening oneself up to spiritual harm. In some cases, the Greek word for sorcery, pharmakia, is a New Testament, is etymologically linked to the use of drugs, suggesting a biblical connection between substance use and occult practices or demonic activity. Personal testimonies and accounts. Many people who have experienced addiction have found recovery through faith-based programs share personal testimonies that describe feeling a loss of control and an evil influence while using substances. They may feel that they were not in the right mind and that an external force was compelling them to do things they would have never done otherwise. These experiences, while not scientific evidence, are considered proof within their personal belief system. It's crucial to distinguish this religious perspective from the scientific and psychological understanding of substance abuse. The vast majority of medical and psychological professions explain the link between drug, alcohol, and violence through neurobiological changes, impaired judgment, and the exacerbation of pre-existing mental health issues or trauma. However, for those who hold a spiritual worldview, these two explanations are not mutually exclusive. They may see the physical and mental effects of substance abuse at the very means through which spiritual forces exert their influence. The concept of a war in heaven is a significant theme in various religious traditions, most prominently in Christianity. It's an allegory or literal conflict between good and evil, often depicted as a celestial battle. Christian theology. The primary source for this concept in Christian theology is the book of Revelation, specifically Revelations 12:7-9. I heard that it already happened, that the temple was destroyed in AD 70. You can check, that's when the Romans destroyed it because the Jews were having a rebellion. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, the ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, which leads the whole world astray. He was hurled at the earth and the angels with him. This passage widely is interpreted as describing conflict between the archangel Michael and the angel loyal to God against Satan, the dragon, and the angels who rebelled with him. Other biblical passages are linked to this narrative. Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28 are sometimes interpreted as references to the fall of Lucifer, an name for Satan derived from those texts. The once glorious angel, he fell due to pride and desire to be like God. Luke 10:18, where Jesus says, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven, is seen as a reference to the same event. The timing of this war is subject to debate among theologians. Pre-creation, the most common view is that this war occurred before the creation of the world, explaining the origin of evil and why Satan and his demons oppressed on earth. During Christ's ministry, some scholars suggest the war in Revelation is a symbolic representation of spiritual victory Christ achieved over Satan during his life, death, and resurrection. End times. Another interpretation sees the war in Revelation as a future event that will take place during the end of times, just before the final judgment. Other religions and mythologies, the idea of a great primordial conflict between heavenly forces is not unique to Christianity. Similar themes appear in other religious and mythological traditions. Zoroastrian, this ancient Persian religion is highly dualistic, positing a cosmic struggle between the supreme benevolent deity, Ahura Mazda, and the malevolent spirit, Andromeda or Rema. Judaism, and the Hebrew Bible describes the Satan as an adversary, accuser under God's authority. The later Jewish mystical tradition and some apocryphal texts develop a more elaborate narrative of fallen angels who rebelled against God. Mormonism, Latter-day Saints. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints teaches that the war in heaven was a premortal conflict over the plan of salvation. Lucifer proposed a plan that would remove human agency and force everyone to be saved, while Jesus' plan upheld free will. Those who followed Lucifer were cast out of heaven and denied the opportunity to receive a physical body. Ancient mythologies. Many ancient cultures have had stories of great war between the gods or divine beings. Examples: the Greek Titan and Maki, war between the Olympians and Titans, and the Norse Esir-Vanir war. These myths, while not directly there, reflect a common human fascination with the idea of a cosmic struggle for power and order. In summary, while the idea of a war in heaven is a central belief in many Christian traditions, its interpretation varies, and similar narratives of successful conflict can be found across a wide range of religious and mythological systems.